All right, welcome back, everybody, to SAT Reading Crash Course Day 1. We're in Part 2. We got Caden with us. We just finished reading that first passage from PSAT Practice Test Number 1, that Jane Austen passage from Emma. And if you haven't given it a read-through on your own yet, I recommend trying that at some point. Just read it all the way through on your own after having discussed it. I don't want to spend the time doing that right now, but we're going to approach some of these questions here, and I want to go to the rules for reading here. Starting with rule number 3. Caden, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead and read rule number 3. We've already done 1 and 2, looking up words you don't know. We've got to know that vocab, and then reading for meaning, not just rushing through the text, but slowing down and really chewing on the ideas. Rule number 3 applies to answering the questions. So go ahead and read rule number 3 for us, please, loud and proud.
Okay. Look for evidence in the text to support the correct answer choice and to eliminate incorrect answer choices. You never need to bring in your opinion or think about what might sound reasonable. Focus on the text.
Yeah, this is real different from most English classes, I think, where they ask you kind of how does this make you feel? What does this make you think about? You're supposed to make associations and connections on your own. And that's really not the name of the game at all here on the SAT. The question is always basically, what is the author saying? That's it. And so the answers to all the questions are within the text themselves. So, I sometimes describe the reading section as more like Where's Waldo than a traditional English test. And when I say Where's Waldo, you played Where's Waldo before, have you, Caden?
Yes.
Right, where you're trying to, it's Waldo somewhere in the picture. You got to kind of scan through and visually process things and try to find where Waldo is. It's a little bit like that. The answer is there, somewhere in the text, hidden somewhere in the text. You just got to find it. Okay?
Right.
So get out of your head and get in the text. That's the name of the game here. Now you got to use your brain, obviously, to figure out what the text is saying. But your focus needs to be on the text, not about what you think sounds right or yeah, that's how I might feel if I were in that situation or something. None of that. Focus on what the author is saying in the text. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's do it. Go ahead and read question number 1 first, please. You see it there on the screen?
All right. The main purpose of the passage is to...
Okay. Now, before we answer this, a lot of the questions you're going to see on the SAT or PSAT for that matter, the first question in a passage is quite often, not always, but quite often is what I describe as an overarching question. Okay, this is the main purpose of the passage as a whole. Does that make sense when I say overarching question?
Yes.
You got to consider the whole thing. They're asking about a very specific part. Most of the questions, they're asking about a very specific part. I mean, I look at questions 3 and 4 and 5. They're asking about specific sets of lines. Here, they're asking you about the passage as a whole. This is a good question. If you read the answer choices and you're not sure about the answer, it's a good question to kind of circle and skip it, and then come back to it after you've answered all the other questions that require you to study the specific parts of the passage, right? The rest of
Gotcha.
it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because after you've answered the other questions, 2 through 9 on the more specific parts of the passage, you're going to have a better understanding of the passage as a whole. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But here, I want to try it. I want to see if we can answer this. Sometimes if you have a good understanding of the passage, you can answer it right away. Great. You don't have to worry about skipping and coming back to it. So let's try to answer it right now. We may come back to it, depending. But I think based on our close reading, I think you're going to have a good sense of what the answer is. And again, we're going to continue our focus on evidence in the text. If we can support that with evidence or eliminate the answer choice with evidence in the text as well. So the main purpose of the passage is to go ahead and read answer choice A, please.
Describe a main character and a significant change in her life.
Okay, is the main purpose of the passage to describe a main character and a significant change in her life?
Yes.
Yeah, it does that. Okay, right? I mean, isn't that kind of obvious after reading it as close as we did,
sure.
right? Okay, that seems like the main purpose. At the very least, let's keep it. Okay,
Yeah.
But that sounds pretty good. Let's test answer choice B. Go ahead and read answer choice B.
Provide an overview of a family and a nearby neighbor.
Okay, Caden, is the main purpose of the passage to provide an overview of a family and a nearby neighbor?
It provides an overview of the family.
It does that.
She's only a neighbor towards the end. She was kind of the family.
Yeah.
Doesn't really add up.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. I agree, right? And you're absolutely right. Based on the evidence, you can eliminate that. She's a neighbor at the end. But that's it.
Right.
And it's not even really so much about the family.
It's not the main purpose.
Yeah, it's they do that, but it's not the main. Absolutely, it's not the main purpose. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You can eliminate that based on the evidence, right? It's more about Emma and less about the family. Anyway, so yeah, I don't like B. We can get rid of it. Try C.
Okay. Discuss some regrettable personality flaws in a main character.
Okay, is that the main purpose of the passage, to discuss some regrettable personality flaws in a main character?
No.
No. Now, does it do that? Does it discuss some regrettable personality flaws in a main character?
Yes.
Absolutely, right? But that's only like parts of the passage. I mean, that's like lines like, I don't know, like around line 30 maybe, and
Right.
I mean that's most of it. That's it. But it's just like a small part,
and
right?
it also goes over some good personality.
Yeah, it's just a small part of it. It may be a true statement that it does discuss some regrettable personality flaws, but it's not the main purpose of the passage. And here you got to directly address the question. So I think we can eliminate C. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, and that's tricky here. It's not just, is that a true statement? It's, is that the main purpose of the passage? You always have to keep the question in mind when you test the answer choices. So we can get rid of C. Try D.
Okay, explain the relationship between a main character and her father.
Is that the main purpose of the passage?
No.
No. Now, hold on. Does the passage explain the relationship between the main character and her father?
Yes.
Yes, it does, but that's not the main purpose of the passage.
Yep.
Is that clear?
Yes.
We can confirm answer choice A, and we can eliminate answer choice B, C, and D. We can feel pretty good about answer choice A, and it is A. Okay. But I want you to do both things. I want you to test all the answer choices. You should read them all. You'll have time to. You will.
Okay.
But if you can do both those things, if you can confirm the right answer based on evidence from the text, yes, the whole text is either describing the main character or describing the significant change in her life. The whole text is doing that. You can check it all out. Test it. And you can eliminate the incorrect answer choices B, C, and D. Based on evidence in the text, you've got the right answer. And we do here. Any questions?
No.
Okay, great. Question number 2. Go ahead and read that for me, please.
Okay. Which choice best summarizes the first 2 paragraphs of the passage, line 1 through 14?
Okay, now, before we answer this question, guess what we're going to have to do?
Look at the text.
We're going to have to look at the text. We're going to have to reread those first 2 paragraphs, lines 1 through 14. We have to. Okay. Now, when we're doing a timed test, and we'll get to that later, we'll spend some time at the end of the course, discussing exactly how to approach time testing. What I generally recommend is that you give the passage a good quick read, like 2 to 3 minutes, probably max. And just kind of get the main ideas. And then when they ask you to reference a specific part of the passage, you go back and study it very, very carefully. Okay, because if they're asking you a specific question about a specific part of the passage, you better understand that specific part of the passage. So right. if they reference a specific set of lines, you just have to go back. You have to. Okay, so let's do that right here.
Okay.
So we're going to read the first 2 paragraphs again, but I think we're going to have a pretty good understanding of these now that we've analyzed it as we have. Go ahead and read it from the beginning, that first 2 paragraphs.
Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. She was the youngest of the 2 daughters of a most affectionate, indulgent father, and had, in consequence of her sister's marriage, been mistress of his house from a very early period. Her mother had died too long ago for her to have more than an indistinct remembrance of her caresses, and her place had been supplied by an excellent woman as governess, who had fallen little short of a mother in affection.
Excellent. Okay, great. Now let's answer the question. So we got to find which best summarizes the first 2 paragraphs of the passage. Go ahead and read A, please.
Even though a character loses a parent at an early age, she is happily raised in a loving home.
Does that summarize the first 2 paragraphs of the passage?
Sort of.
Sort of. Why do you say sort of?
I don't think it touches on what I think that the first 2 paragraphs kind of go more broad than that.
How so?
I don't know. I wouldn't say that it isn't saying what the first few paragraphs is, but I wouldn't say that
you're not sold on it.
Like it could, yeah.
You're not sold on it. Okay. If you're not sold on it, can you eliminate it?
I wouldn't say you can eliminate it.
I wouldn't say you can eliminate it either. Right. I wouldn't say. You may not be sold on it. And notice it doesn't say, which is the perfect summary of the first 2 paragraphs,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't. We just got to go with the best one. If you can't eliminate it, don't eliminate it. Let's keep it. See if we can find something better. Let's keep it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You really only should eliminate if you can find evidence against it. I don't see any evidence against it at the moment. Now, if we're between like 2 other answer choices, and if you're left with 2, you can't eliminate 2. There's probably something you're missing, and you can go back and try to figure out kind of what you're missing. But if you can't eliminate, don't eliminate it. Let's keep it. Go to read B.
An affectionate governess helps a character to overcome the loss of her mother despite the indifference of her father.
Does that summarize the first 2 paragraphs of the passage?
I wouldn't. Now I'm second guessing myself on everything.
Well, focus on the evidence. Your opinion doesn't really need to get into this at all. I mean, do you know what indifference means?
Yeah, like he's like, it would mean like he's really not caring here.
Not caring. Yeah, not caring. Disinterested, uncaring. Is her father?
But I think it mentioned that he did like care.
Let's go to the text. Is her father indifferent?
Let's see.
Look at the text.
Most affectionate, indulgent father.
Is he indifferent?
So, no.
No, he's not indifferent. All right. Now you got to know what indifferent means. And here again, doing untimed work, I encourage you to look up the vocab, even the vocab and maybe especially the vocab in the answer choices. This still needs to be an opportunity for you to boost your academic vocabulary, because you're going to see academic vocabulary all over this test. You just got to know what words mean.
Right.
And we know, if you know what indifferent means, uncaring, he's not indifferent. He's affectionate and indulgent. Not indifferent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we can eliminate B just based on that one word, indifference. Just based on that.
Yeah.
But I got another issue with answer choice B. Does this governess help the character overcome the loss of her mother?
No.
No. Why not? We can base that on evidence in the text. Why not? Why do we know?
She didn't know her enough to really worry or care about it.
There was no loss for her to get over because she doesn't even remember her mother hardly.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's 2 strikes against answer choice B. We've got evidence.
Not looking too good.
It's not looking good. Do you see that? And do you see why? Like, don't second guess yourself. Your thoughts don't matter. They just don't. Your impressions don't matter. They just don't. What's the author saying? Does the governess help the character overcome the loss of her mother? No. There's evidence against that. Because she doesn't even remember her mother. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is her father indifferent? No. No. He's affectionate and indulgent. Not different. Your thoughts don't come into this at all. Now, and it's tricky, right? Because you're like, boy, if I lost my mom at an early age, I might be, and you're thinking about, if you lost your mother or something like that. Of course you would be sad. But there's just no evidence that Emma had to overcome anything. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that she didn't deal with any problems, right? There's more evidence even in the first paragraph. She lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. Even the death of her mother didn't distress her because she was too young to remember it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's all about evidence in the text. There's just no evidence for B, and there's a lot of evidence against it. So B is gone for sure. Do you see the difference between A and B, by the way?
Yeah.
And for a while, you're kind of torn between the two, kind of when you're focused on your impressions maybe or about how you would feel or something like that. Well, that's not it, man. That's not the. It's just like there's some evidence for A, and you can't get rid of it. But B, no, and no. When you focus on the text. Any questions?
No.
Okay, go to read answer choice C.
Largely as a result of her father's wealth and affection, a character leads a contented life.
Does that summarize the first 2 paragraphs of the passage?
No.
I agree, no. Why not?
The father doesn't play a big enough role in it.
I think it's more than that. I mean, is her father wealthy and affectionate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's wrong with C?
That wasn't the main reason why she led a contented life.
Exactly. Right, that word largely, which means like mostly. I mean, is that a factor?
Yes.
Probably, but Is that largely the reason? I don't see any evidence for that.
No.
I just don't. Yeah, she's rich. Okay, great. Comfortable home. Okay. I mean, is it largely because of her father's wealth and affection? There's
No.
not good evidence for
No.
it. Do you see that?
Yeah.
One word can throw off an answer choice. One word. And that's the case here with answer choice C, largely. Okay? And it just doesn't summarize. I mean, it's part of it, kind of, his wealth and affection, maybe, but it's not largely. Okay. One word can throw it off. Go to answer choice D.
A character has a generally comfortable and fulfilling life, but then she must recover from losing her mother. And that's not what happens.
No, it's just not what happens, right? And again, we see the issue there, right? She doesn't have to recover from her mother's loss because she barely remembers her. So we've got evidence against B. So it's A.
Yeah.
Is A perfect? No. Does it best summarize the first two paragraphs of the passage? Does it best? It does. So it's A, right? Be aware of that. You're never, rarely going to find, that's perfect. Maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
But we got to find the best, which means the least worst. And there's big problems with B, C, and D. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think it's easier to eliminate bad answer choices than it is to confirm the right one.
Yeah, for sure.
I think always. Always.
Yeah, it's a lot more. What's the word I'm looking
it's
for?
It's just more obvious to be like, no, that's not right. Then to be like, that's it, right there, that's it. You read it and you're like, maybe? I don't know. That's fine, keep it. But when you read D, no.
Yeah.
No.
It's not what
definitely not. Right?
Yeah.
You got to use process of elimination. But we can do both. We can confirm A. I mean, it does that. It summarizes that. Maybe not perfectly, but it does that. But it definitely doesn't do B, C, and D.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 3.
Okay. The narrator indicates that the particular nature of Emma's upbringing resulted in her being...
Ooh. Okay. Resulted in her being. Okay. So we got some answer choices here. So go to answer choice A.
Despondent.
Despondent. You know what despondent means?
Do not know what that means.
You got to know what words mean. Go ahead and look it up. Despondent definition.
I mean, I'm sure I've heard it before.
Probably.
In low spirits from loss of hope or courage.
Okay. Does the narrator indicate that the particular nature of Emma's upbringing results in her being despondent?
No.
What's your evidence against that? I agree. There's lots of evidence against it.
It seems like she's very well off and happy.
Yeah, she's happy, right? She's lived, again, those lines, around line 5, right? She's lived 21 years with very little to distress her or vex her. She's not despondent. She's the opposite. She's pretty happy.
Yeah.
Right? But that's tough to eliminate if you don't know what despondent means. And that's okay. If you see word you don't know, again, especially on the time test, you're taking the actual SAT, keep it. Don't eliminate it. If you don't know, at least it's a possibility. But when you're doing untimed work, use this as an opportunity to boost your academic vocab. Look it up. Okay? All right, go to read B for me, please.
Self-satisfied.
Does the narrator indicate that the particular nature of Emma's upbringing resulted in her being self-satisfied?
Yeah.
I think so. What's your evidence for that?
I mean, that's kind of how it went over it. It was like she was very, I don't know how they worded it exactly, but they said that she was very well off.
Yeah. Do you know what self-satisfied means?
Content.
It's a little bit more than that. Go ahead and look up self-satisfied. Self-satisfied definition. Go to Google that. It's more specific than that. I mean, you could say it means, obviously you're satisfied with yourself. Okay. There's a connotation there that I want you to understand.
Excessively and unwarrantedly satisfied with oneself or one's achievements.
Ooh, it's got a very negative connotation. Excessively satisfied with oneself.
Almost egotistical.
Do you see any evidence that the narrator indicates the particular nature of her upbringing results in her being self-satisfied? Excessively.
I would say so.
Can you think of any lines?
Believe it was around maybe line 30.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right? Read that sentence around line 30.
Oh, yeah.
In that paragraph. Read that.
The real evils of indeed Emma's situation were the power of having rather too much her own way and a disposition to think a little too well of herself.
Does that sound like self-satisfied?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got good evidence for that. So B looks pretty good. Let's test the others. Try C.
Okay. Friendless.
Okay. Does the narrator indicate the particular nature of Emma's upbringing results in her being friendless?
Well, she wasn't friendless.
She wasn't friendless.
Yeah.
So
she felt friendless at the end after she left, but that wasn't really.
That wasn't a result of her upbringing. Yeah, her upbringing. Like she had a really good friend. Who?
Yeah.
Who?
So.
Who was her friend?
Oh, Miss Taylor.
Miss Taylor. She's not friend. Get rid of C. That's ridiculous. What about D?
Inconsiderate. I wouldn't say that.
No.
She seemed like that.
No, in fact, she's very considerate. How do we know she's considerate?
Yeah. Because she cares for her friend.
She cares for her friend, right? So much so that like she encourages her to get married, even though it's going to negatively affect her.
Right.
Right. That she's at least aware of on some level, I would think. So you're very considerate. Right? There's the whole lines about her thinking about, how much she wished and promoted the match. Right.
Yeah.
On like line 53, 54. 53. So it's not D. So even if you're stuck between like, let's say you can't get rid of A because you don't know what that means, and there's some evidence for B, you can get rid of C and D. If it's between A and B, what are you going to go with? Go with
the one that you have
evidence for, right? I mean, it could be A, but you don't know what it means, but we know we got evidence for B. Go with B. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Especially when you're taking the actual SAT, you got to focus on what you know, not what you don't know. Now, when you're doing untimed work, you got to recognize what you don't know and find it out. You got to know what words mean. Yes. On the actual test, emphasize what you know, and you'll be okay.
Okay.
All right? Oh, look at question number 4. I love this. Go ahead and read question number 4 for us, please.
Okay. Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question?
You don't even need to read the lines. You can tell me right now.
D.
Well, let's read D.
Okay.
32 through 34.
Oh, I totally missed that. I missed it by like one line.
You're close. Look at the answer choices for 4.
It is C.
C. 28 through... those are the lines you read, right?
Right.
28 through 32.
I couldn't remember if it was from line 31 to 32.
Yeah, they're super close. But go ahead and read 28 through 32 again.
Okay, the real evils indeed of Emma's situation were the power of having rather too much her own way and the disposition to think a little too well of herself. These were the disadvantages which threatened alloy to her many enjoyments.
Do we see why that supports the idea of her being self-satisfied?
Yes.
Read 32 through 34 now. I don't think it supports it as much.
Okay. The danger, however, was at present so unperceived that they did not by any means rank as misfortunes with her.
Do you see why C's better?
Yes.
And C hits it head on.
Yeah, it's much clearer.
D kind of hints at it a little bit. That's a little bit tricky. But again, like when I asked you for the evidence, those are the lines you read. Was from 20 through 32, at least 20 through 30. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So here's the deal. They love these style of question where they ask you a question and then you have to support it with specific lines. Okay? If you know the answer to 3, and you can find the lines to support it, you know the answer to 4. Does that make sense?
Right.
I call them 2-for-1 questions. Because if you're answering 3 well, you've already found the answer to number 4. Now here's the deal, Caden. It's important. If you read 3 and you're not sure about the answer to 3, what should you do?
Check the next one.
Check the next one.
Look through the lines.
Absolutely. Does that make sense? Because the answer to 3 has to be in the lines in answer choices A, B, C, or D from question 4. It has to be there. So you don't have to read through the whole passage to find the answer to 3. Just read the lines in question number 4. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I go back and forth all the time when I'm answering these 2-for-1 questions. And I think students should do the same as well. If you know the answer to 3, great. Just answer it and support it with evidence, and then you know 4. But if you read 3 and you're unsure about it, go to 4. Read the lines. You should find the answer to number 3. and for. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
No? Okay, great. Question number 5. Go ahead and read it for me, please.
All right. As used in line 26, directed most nearly means.
Okay, now I'm going to stop you real quick. Notice it doesn't say directed most nearly means. I mean, it does say it, but that's not all it says. It says as used in line 26.
Right.
Directed most nearly. So we're not just looking for a synonym for directed. We're looking for the meaning of the word directed in line 26. So what you have to do here, Kate, this is very, very important. You've got to plug in the answer choices into the sentence where line 26 is at.
Okay.
Okay? The correct answer choice is going to make perfect sense. And the incorrect answer choices aren't going to make much sense. You got to use that method. You got to plug it into the sentence. Okay, so let's do that. So let's read, we're going to test answer choice A, trained, and we're going to plug that in for directed into the sentence where line 26 is at. So take it from, we got a semicolon here. It's a complete statement here after the semicolon.
Okay.
Just take it from line 25. Highly esteeming Miss Taylor's judgment. And I think we're plugging in trained in for directed. Does that make sense? Do you see where we are? Right here?
Yes.
Okay, good. Go ahead and read it from highly esteeming.
Highly esteeming Miss Taylor's judgment, but trained chiefly by her own.
How's that?
That fits pretty well.
Okay.
I would say.
Let's try answer choice B.
Okay, aimed. Highly esteeming Miss Taylor's judgment, but aimed chiefly by her own.
How's that?
That doesn't fit as well, in my opinion.
No, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
No, it doesn't really hit the same way.
Try C, guided.
Okay. Highly esteeming Miss Taylor's judgment, but guided chiefly by her own.
How's that?
That fits
That
pretty well.
What's better, A or C?
I would say C, because it's like she respects her judgment so much, but she still favors hers a little bit more.
Yeah. She esteems Miss Taylor's judgment, she respects Miss Taylor's judgment, but she's guided chiefly by her own judgment. Does it make sense you say, but she's trained chiefly by her own judgment? Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you say trained,
that doesn't fit as well. It's like,
I don't think it
trained
does.
chiefly by her own. It would be like you're training. Like,
yeah, could you be trained by your judgment? You could be guided by your own judgment, but would you be trained by your own judgment?
Not so much.
I don't think that makes much sense. I don't, and this is a great example of where you need to cycle through all the answer choices. Even you thought you found something good with A,
right?
But C's better.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so don't just stop when you see something good. You've always got to cycle through. Always. Try answer choice D, addressed.
Okay. Highly esteeming Miss Taylor's judgment, but addressed chiefly by her own.
How's that?
That's not how
not
it doesn't flow.
No, you're not addressed by your own judgment. That's weird.
Yeah, that doesn't really
You can be
sense.
guided by your judgment. You're not addressed, you're not trained by your judgment. You're certainly not, what was the other one? Aimed by your own judgment. So the best answer choice here is answer choice C. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, you got to plug them in. And cycle through. Okay?
Okay.
Question number 6, same thing. Go ahead and read question number 6.
All right. As used in line 54, want most nearly means.
Okay, we got to plug in the answer choices here. Okay. So let's plug in answer choice A, which is desire. We're going to plug that into the sentence where line 54 is at. So, right here, do you see that sentence?
Which sentence?
Line 54. The want of Miss Taylor would be felt every hour of every day. So plug in desire.
Oh, desire. The desire of Miss Taylor would be felt every hour, every day.
How's that?
I mean, it fits pretty well. Like, she desires to be around her.
Okay. Let's try answer choice B. Lack. Okay, so we'll plug that into that sentence.
Okay. The lack of Miss Taylor would be felt every hour of every day.
How's that?
I would say that fits better.
That does fit better. Why is B better than A? Why is lack better than want or than desire?
Because it shows that it kind of sets the tone of how she's not there. It really sets that in picture. It's like, oh, she's not around.
Yeah, if you plug in A, the desire of Miss Taylor would be felt every hour of every day. Whose desire are we talking about if you plug in A?
I don't know if it's specified, but probably main Emma.
I mean, the author is trying to communicate. We're talking about Emma's desire for Miss Taylor.
Right.
But if you plug in desire in place of want, it's suddenly you're talking about the desire of Miss Taylor, not the desire of Emma.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yes.
A gives you the wrong idea.
Yeah, it does. It throws you off.
Yeah, it's not Miss Taylor's desire. It's Emma's desire for Miss Taylor. And that's the idea you communicate if you plug in lack. The lack of Miss Taylor. The fact that Miss Taylor's not there would be felt every hour of every day by Emma. But if you plug in A, it seems like we're talking about Miss Taylor's desire. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Emma's desire for Miss Taylor. There's a difference there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, and this is why you got to plug in the answer choices. You wouldn't believe the percentage of students that pick A for question number 6. Probably like 90%.
Wow.
Because when they read it at first, they say, as using line 54, want, most of them is like, oh, want means desire. Right?
Yeah.
That's a synonym. They love doing that. They love giving you the obvious synonym, especially for answer choice A. You won't see it all. Yeah, and everybody's just like, oh, desire. Pfft, I know what that means. Easy.
Yeah.
Wrong. That's not what they're asking, as used in line 54. It's more like lack.
Yeah, for sure.
To want for something. There's a famous poem or I don't know, something like that. I think it was like Benjamin Franklin. Have you heard it's like for want of a nail? Have you heard that one?
Maybe.
It's like for want of a nail, the horseshoe was lost. For want of the horseshoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the battle was lost. For the loss of the battle, the war was lost, or something like that. All for want of a nail. Right.
Gotcha.
Want can also mean lack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a super common use of it, but here it's the only one that makes sense. I mean, plug in C and D. Let me hear C and D as well. So requirement in place of want.
The requirement of Miss Taylor would be felt every hour of every day.
How's that?
That doesn't really.
No. We're not talking about Miss Taylor's requirement. Yeah. What requirement? That doesn't make any sense. What about request, D?
Okay. The request of Miss Taylor would be felt every hour of every day. Still not Miss Taylor.
No. Yeah, we're still not talking about something belonging to Miss Taylor, right? We're not talking about her request or her requirement or her desire.
Right.
We're talking about Emma's desire. Therefore, it's the lack of Miss Taylor. Tricky. It's very tricky. But B is correct. Any questions?
No.
You see why I got to plug them in? That make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just synonyms here. It's as used in this line, in this context. Question number 7. Go ahead and read it, please.
Okay. It can be most reasonably be inferred that after Miss Taylor married, she had...
Okay. What does it mean to infer?
To, like, assume.
Yeah, kind of to assume. Okay. And we can make some assumptions based on the evidence. We can. Okay.
Okay.
So it can reasonably be inferred that after Miss Taylor married, she had... Ooh, let's test the answer choices. Go ahead and read A.
Less patience with Mr. Woodhouse.
Okay, can it be inferred that after Miss Taylor married, she had less patience with Mr. Woodhouse?
Doesn't really specify who she is, but it would be Miss Taylor. But that wouldn't really make sense at all.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Miss Taylor have less patience with Mr. Woodhouse?
No.
I don't know. I don't see any evidence. I mean, there's no reason to believe that. It doesn't talk about the relation between Miss Taylor and Mr. Woodhouse at all.
Yeah.
I mean, other than when they were living in the home, they were all like family, but no. There's just no evidence for that. Try B.
Fewer interactions with Emma.
Can it reasonably be inferred that when Miss Taylor married, she had fewer interactions with Emma?
Yes.
I think so. What are you basing that on? What lines are you basing that on?
I'm not sure exactly what lines it was, but I
That's in the
definitely,
second half.
yeah.
See if you can find them.
Okay. Um, Probably around line 75.
Yeah. Yeah. Read those lines.
But Emma was aware that great must be the difference between a Miss Weston only half a mile from them and a Miss Taylor in the house.
Can you infer from that they have fewer interactions?
Yes.
I think so. I think it's pretty reasonable. Let's keep B. Let's try C.
It can be most reasonably be inferred that after Miss Taylor married, she had more close friends than Emma.
Can that be inferred?
No.
No. It says nothing about her friends. I mean,
Yeah.
she's married to a dude. I mean, maybe if it said had a closer friend than Emma, I don't know. I mean, her husband's a friend. Maybe he is. I don't know. I mean, again, there's just no more close friends. No. There's no evidence.
Doesn't really.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, compare that to B, right? Which we've got some evidence for B. There's just nothing for C. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Try D.
And
by the way, real quick, I love the fact that you reread the question. I love it. I mean, that's really what you should do. I've been doing that for you, but I'm kind of modeling that for you. But that's exactly how you should approach it. You never lose sight of the question. All right. So try D.
It can be most reasonably be inferred that after Miss Taylor married, she had an increased appreciation for Emma.
Can that be inferred?
Probably not.
I don't see evidence for it.
Yeah, I would assume she would have had an appreciation for her, but it doesn't say that anywhere.
It may be true. It may be true with these fictional characters here. Right? I mean, that's reasonable sounding enough. But is there evidence for it? We've got evidence for B.
Yeah.
I just don't see any evidence for D.
Go with what you know.
So go with B. Right? And it's B. It's B.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Again, you can't get lost in your brain and be like, if I, moved away from a friend, I might appreciate her more. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care about you. The SAT doesn't care about you. Okay? I'm not sure. I should say I don't care about you, Kate. But I don't care what you think about how you would feel in that situation. That I truly do not care about. That is true. And the SAT certainly cares even less. What is there evidence for? There's evidence for B, not for D. Okay. Look at question number 8. Oh, great. What's the answer? What's the answer? D!
Yeah.
D.
For sure.
73 to 79. Done. 2 for 1. Yeah. Right there. Now, if you didn't know the answer to 7, what do?
Go check the other lines.
Check the other lines, right. Which is a very reasonable thing to do. It's the thing to do.
Gotcha.
And we'll see some questions where you're going to have to do that, where it's not as clear, maybe for the first question and the 2 for 1. But here we could figure it out. You're more likely to be, if you can find the evidence on your own, it's more likely to be accurate. Because sometimes they make up, they're basing the answers to 7 on some of the lines from 8. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they seem to even match up the evidence for 8 and the answers for 7. They kind of match up on a certain level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you can get around all that if you can find the evidence to 7 on your own.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you don't have
kind of sneak in the right answer all the way down at D. So if you're going from top to bottom, by that point you're like, oh, this kind of fits.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how they're trying to trick you. So if you can avoid all that by just finding the evidence on your own, great. But if you can't, your best bet is to go to the lines.
Yeah. Okay.
Question number 9 is tricky. And this is a little bit different from the others. This one probably requires you to be the most creative. I really want to avoid thinking in terms of you thinking too much on your own here, because we're still basing the answer on evidence from the text. But this one you got to think a little bit more than most. Go ahead and read question number 9 for me, please.
All right. Which situation is most similar to the one described in lines 83 to 91?
Okay. Well,
the evil blank time.
Yeah. So what do we have to do before we answer this one, Kate?
Read the answer choices.
No.
Oh. Oh, go to the lines.
Yeah, we better go to the lines, right? 83.
Yeah,
What is
so we know
what is the
meaning.
situation described in 83 through 91? You may not remember exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to have it fresh in your mind. So you're gonna have time to do it. You will, with practice.
Okay.
With practice, you will. So let's go back, and especially this is untimed words. Let's just do it the right way. Read 83 through 91 for me, please.
All right. He could not meet her in conversation.
No.
That was not it. The evil of the actual disparity in their ages, and Mr. Woodhouse had not married early, was much increased by his constitution and habits. For having been a valetudinarian all his life without activity of mind or body, he was a much older man in ways than in years, and though everywhere he looked for the friendliness of his heart and his amiable temper, his talents could not have recommended him at any time.
Okay. So we've got to find the situation most similar to the one described in those lines. And we still have to base this on evidence in the text. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and read A.
A mother and her adult son have distinct tastes in art and music that result in repeated family arguments.
Is that similar to the situation described in lines 83 through 91?
Similar, but not near enough.
Yeah, it's not.
It's similar, but very different.
What's off? What's off? I don't like A. What's off?
They're not having
A?
arguments.
They're not having any arguments.
Yeah.
At all. So I don't like that. Do Emma and her father have distinct tastes? Well, I mean, maybe. It's the second half.
But it doesn't say anything in concrete terms.
Yeah. But that argument thing really bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Try B.
The differences between an older and a younger friend are magnified because the younger one is more active and athletic.
Is that similar to the situation described in lines 83 through 91?
Yes.
It's similar. Why is it similar? I agree.
Because it's an older person and a younger person, and one is not doing as well as the other is.
Yeah. That's similar. I mean, it's not exact, right? Obviously, it's not saying perfectly parallels or something like that. But it's similar. Let's keep B. Right? Do we see the difference why we can eliminate A based on evidence in the text?
Yes.
And we can't for B. In fact, we can find some evidence to support it. So let's keep B. Try C.
Okay. An older and a younger scientist remain close friends despite the fact that the older one's work is published more frequently.
Is that similar to the situation described in lines 83 through 91?
No, they're not very... It doesn't say that they're very close, and then it doesn't say anything about the older one gets more things.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Especially the older one. Yeah, they're not that close, I guess even, right? I mean, they like each other, I guess, but they're not super close. They're not. And then the older one's like more successful in answer choice C.
Yeah, that just doesn't.
And that's just kind of the opposite of the situation with Emma and her father, right? Emma's the one with more talent and just sort of social advantages. And the father not so much. It's kind of the opposite. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we're still basing that on evidence in the text. Still. As much as you kind of do have to engage your imagination a bit to imagine these situations. We're still eliminating the correct answer choices based on evidence in the text. Still. Go to answer choice D.
All right. The age difference between a high school student and a college student becomes a problem even though they enjoy the same diversions.
Is that similar to the situation described in 83 through 91?
No.
No, why not?
Because they really don't enjoy the same thing.
They don't. They just don't.
Yeah, it even says that he doesn't... I don't know where it said it, but somewhere in there it didn't say that he likes to... He just kind of doesn't have conversations with her.
Yeah, I think earlier in like lines 81 and 82, right? You could not meet her in conversation, rational, and playful, right? And even though that's not in lines 83 through 91, that's still evidence and context against answer choice D.
Yeah.
So, I don't like that. B is the best.
Yeah.
And it's the right answer.
Cool.
Any questions, Caden?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Does the approach to the text that we're using here, and the approach to the questions in this part of the class, does that make sense?
Yes.
That's all about evidence in the text.
Yeah.
Don't think about what it makes you think about or how it makes you feel if you were the character or how you'd feel or any of that stuff. Don't get involved in that. It's all about what is the author saying? What is there evidence for it? Is there evidence to support this answer choice or is there evidence to eliminate it? If you can find evidence to support a particular answer choice, and you can find evidence against 3 of the incorrect answer choices, you can feel very, very confident in the answer choice you've chosen.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's the name of the game. The more I do this test, when I first started tutoring, and I used to argue with these questions all the time. I used to get angry at some of the questions. I was like, no, I can't be rid of this. But again, I was sort of swimming in the world of impressions, like a lot of students do. But the more that I understand this test and the more I teach it, the more I'm like, it's black and white.
Yeah, for sure.
It's black and white. There's no opinion necessary here. None at all. Either this is supported with evidence or it's not. Or there's evidence against it. Period. You don't have to bring in your outside opinion.
Own opinions, yeah.
Ever.
Your feelings. Just look at what it says.
It's black and white.
Connect the dots.
Yep, that's it. It's black and white. Okay. For homework, and before I see you next, we're gonna move ahead to a couple new passages. I want you to read for homework. I want you to read the next passage. I'm going to send you the links and everything you need to be able to do that. And I want you to practice on your own. I want you to practice looking up vocab. And it's this next passage that you see right here, where it says questions 10 through 19, based on the following material. I want you to read it. And we're going to start. We'll probably read the first paragraph here in just a moment. But for homework, I want you to find any word that you don't know. Even if it's slightly familiar and you think you kind of know what it means, look it up.
Okay.
And define it. Okay? You don't have to copy a whole lengthy definition. I think synonyms are honestly great and maybe the best way to do it. Tell me what synonym that you understand can you plug in there and make sense of that thing. So if you want to type in, you don't know what despondent means, just type in despondent synonyms, see what synonym works in that sentence. Or if you find a simple definition that you like, you can copy the simple definition. Keep it simple. Don't complicate it. I mean, there are some definitions in some dictionaries that I just hate, where the definitions are more complicated than the word itself. We're doing this whole defining of words thing to clarify the ideas, not to make it more complicated. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and I'm guessing, for a lot of students, the average is probably about 10 words in this passage that you may be unfamiliar with.
Okay.
You may not know what the Soviet Union is. Maybe you do. If you don't know, look it up.
Right.
You may not know what an economy is. You're like, I've heard of it, but you can always look it up.
Right.
You've heard the word institution. Okay, what's an institution? So a lot of students can't tell me what an institution is. You've heard it before. Look it up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Even if you're slightly familiar. I don't want slightly familiar. I want you to know what the word means because the author's communicating a specific idea by choosing that word. You got to know what words mean. Okay. So we'll practice that a little bit here. In fact, let's read. This is the first paragraph of this passage.
Okay.
We'll talk about some vocab and how you should approach this. Go ahead and read the introduction there, that first passage.
All right.
Or that second passage.
Visitors to the Soviet...
Oh, no. Read the introduction. Read the introduction.
This passage is adapted from Marina Gorby's The Nature of the Future, Dispatches from the Social Structured World.
Yeah.
By Marina Gorby's.
Yeah. So that word social structured is kind of funky. It's kind of a made-up word that she is going to define later in the passage. If you want to look it up and try to find a definition, that's fine. Don't worry about that right now. You can do that later. But again, she's going to define it later in the passage for us. Go ahead and start reading that first paragraph, please.
Okay. Visitors to the Soviet Union in the 1960s and 1970s always marveled at the gap between what they saw in state stores, shelves empty or filled with things no one wanted, and what they saw in people's homes, nice furnishings and tables filled with
Okay, I'm going to stop you real quick.
Food.
Do you know anything about the Soviet Union?
Not really.
No. Okay. Look it up a little bit for homework. I mean, take this as an opportunity to get familiar with ideas, not just even vocab, but just ideas you've never come across before. And this is really how you should read in general, right? I mean, she's going to make a lot of references to the Soviet Union in this first paragraph, the Soviet people. Who are they? What's going on? If you don't know anything about it, you don't know what the idea is being communicated. Okay, just for the sake of clarity, right now, I mean, the Soviet Union it's a communist empire, really.
Right.
That there was a communist revolution in Russia in 1917. Russia and her neighbors to the east, especially, and a little bit to the south, were communist countries, and remained communist all the way through like 1991, I believe. Maybe.
Gotcha.
I think it was 1991.
Yeah, I kind of like, I know like the basic things like that.
Yeah. Do you know anything about communism?
Yes.
Okay. Right, is the idea like we have perfectly equal society. Everyone shared equal things about everything equally, right? Ruled by working class, right?
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of great in theory, right?
In
Like,
theory,
like perfect
yeah.
equality, but like
In reality,
yeah, perfect equality is actually not great, right? If you want perfect equality, go to North Korea. You'll love it. Everyone's equally starving, right? Everyone's equally poor. Everyone's equally oppressed by the government. Great, you've got equality. Equality in itself is not necessarily good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, they tried to force that sort of social state, and it was a big disaster. Millions of people died in the process because, I've noticed most people don't like having their property taken from them forcibly and by the government, and they generally resist.
Wonder
that. Anyway,
why?
What's that?
I wonder why.
Yeah, gosh, right? I know they're just not fully embracing Marxist ideology, but whatever. Anyway, so they're basically it's like the worst government ever, and anyway they say here. So visitors of the Union, they marveled at the gap between what they saw in state stores. Do you know what state means here in this context?
Not really.
This is tricky. State has, and this is even, I know you know what I said. What's a state? You'd just be able to tell me, like, well, it's one of the 50 states. Yeah, okay. Like Alabama, Massachusetts, Michigan, whatever. State means government. State means government.
Gotcha.
Which is why we're talking about state stores. These are government-run stores. If we were talking about like state-run healthcare, we'd be talking about government-run healthcare. If we're talking about a state school, we're talking about a government-funded public school, generally like public universities. State-funded, it's government-funded. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's why the 50 states are called states, because they each have an independent state, an independent government, with a governor and a capital and their own legislature and their own courts and everything. That's why they're called states. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The U.S. State Department, it's the government institution that is responsible for America's relationship with other countries, other governments, not responsible for the relationship with the 50 states.
Right.
It's how the U.S. government interacts with England and with China and with Japan, Russia, and all those guys. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So people marveled at the gap between what they saw in state stores, shelves empty or filled with things no one wanted, and what they saw in people's homes, nice furnishings and tables filled with food. Have you ever seen a picture of a grocery store in Venezuela?
Probably, but I've probably never really
I'm going to do a quick Google image search. Just grocery store in Venezuela. Can you see this on my screen?
Yes.
Okay, loading slowly here. Oh, great. It's telling me where I can find grocery stores in Venezuela. I'm going to check out the images. Check this out.
Oh.
Whoa! You see that?
Oh.
You see it? Empty shelves, or like row after row after row of like all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Venezuela is a socialist country, which is closely related to communism. Not a huge difference in effect. The difference is how you get it. In a communist country, there's a violent revolution that brings about communist government. In a socialist country, people vote. They vote for that, which is interesting. And anyway, so that's because the Soviet Union's not around anymore. I can't show you images. I guess I could do images from the 60s and 70s of the grocery stores. It would look similar, but that's a modern day example of what it would look like. But yeah, we're getting a little bit into history here. There's ideas here that are being discussed. Consider these ideas. But it makes a lot of sense when you know a little bit about the Soviet Union, or you know a little about, you're reading about the Soviet Union like it's a communist government. What's communism mean? Look it up. Use this as an opportunity to learn.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like reading should be like a jumping off point for you to be exposed to ideas being communicated. Don't just read and be like, oh, I got a couple things. No, read for meaning. Read for understanding. That's how you learn. Okay, so apparently they've got nice things in their homes, there's nothing in the grocery stores. What filled the gap? Go ahead and finish off that paragraph.
A vast informal economy driven by human relationships, dense networks of social connections through which people traded resources and created value.
What is an economy? It's a vast informal economy. What's an economy mean?
Like the state of something. Like how, how things work together.
That's not a bad way to describe how things work together, but it's more specific than that. It's very general, but it's more specific than that. So the economy is the whole, like, when I ask a lot of students, what's the economy? Like, is the economy doing well? Is the economy doing bad? Whatever. Most students think money. But, and money's a part of an economy, but it's just a small part of the economy. Because you can even have an economy without money. It's called the barter system, where people just trade goods and services. But that's what the economy is. The economy is the whole system by which people get goods and services that they want and need. That's the economy. So it's basically everything people do for work, that's the economy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a vast, informal economy driven by human relationships. So they're getting all the stuff, the nice stuff in the homes from other people, right? They're not buying the bread in the store necessarily. They might be getting it from the neighbor who bakes bread. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, take it from line 9, the Soviet people.
The Soviet people didn't plot how they would build these networks. No one was teaching them how to maximize their connections the way social marketers eagerly teach us today. Their networks evolved naturally out of necessity. That was the only way to survive.
Okay, good. All right, so for homework, go ahead and read the rest of this passage again. Look up words you don't know, define them, because we're going to read this together, and I'm going to ask you, kind of what some of these definitions mean. And we're going to see maybe 8 to 10 vocab words maybe you've never seen before. I want you to handle them before I see you next, okay?
All right.
Any questions, Caden?
No.
Okay. All right. You're doing great work. We'll be in touch, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.